Well. How has it been, everybody? It is Guardian, and it's been a while since I've been able to say that. So I recently have just returned from the Pittsburgh regionals, and I did end up actually bringing Gardevoir, despite popular belief. Now, I've been a huge proponent of not playing Gardevoir, not playing meta, things of that nature. You guys have seen the channel. This is unscripted, by the way, so if I take breaks and stutter, it's fine. But either way, so usually I like to play off meta stuff. Like, you guys will see that I played like Iron Hands Joltik Box a while ago, before that was like as poppin' as it was. I've played things like Zoroark, the single prizer. I got a Claydol video possibly coming out soon. The homies are working on an Alakazam videos. I'm pretty sure that a couple of the people, including Chef and Gnome, have actually uploaded their videos on Alakazam. Yeah. So basically, day 0 actually went by kind of cool. So I ended up actually just going to work, and then after work was finished, I don't remember exactly what I did that day, but I know that I was a little bit tired. So when I eventually ended up getting out of work, I took the train. I was taking the train from this train station near me to Penn Station, and our actual first train got delayed by like 15 minutes. So I ended up chatting with the MTA dude there, and he was like, "Oh yeah, where are you going?" I said, "I'm heading from here to Penn State, and I'm going from Penn State to Philly, and then we're gonna go to like this big ass tournament in Pittsburgh." And he's like, "Oh wow, that's cool. My son's friend is actually going to that," so that was actually kind of cool. It was nice, nice little interaction. But I ended up getting to Penn State, and oh my god, this place was beautiful. When I tell you that this thing was like this was less of a train station and more of a shopping mall. Like, I went up the stairs, and with a 360-degree view, there was like 5 hallways just full of stuff. Now, I understand that I'm in New York City, so like all that stuff is gonna be like, you know what I mean, expected to be seen. But actually seeing it in person, it was incredible. I was honestly taken so aback. But anyway, I ended up, it was actually interesting that my first train got delayed, because my second train got to the station at 9. So I was chilling at Penn Station for like an hour and like 15 minutes-ish. So I got to walk around, I got to enjoy the views, I got to enjoy the scenery, yada, yada, yada. And then eventually I ended up actually going to Philly train station, which was about an hour. Nothing interesting really happened on the train, and that's about it. I ended up getting picked up by Chris, aka GCG, at around 11 o'clock-ish, and it was about a 30-minute drive back to his place. So we were just chatting it up, talking about all the experiences and stuff like that. And I'm not gonna lie, I need to go up there a little bit more often to go see him, because if I can just find like train tickets for as cheap as I actually did, I could deadass go see him like every now and then. But obviously I'd have to coordinate things with him and yada yada yada, things of that nature. But then when we got back to his place, I ended up just knocking out immediately on his couch, and he had to work the next day. So when I woke up, it was me and then his girlfriend Rachel. Hi Rachel, I know you're watching this right now. How you doing? She had an appointment for an interview for a university she was trying to get into. And like right as I'm waking up, she comes out of her room and like a deadass, like she could have been a lawyer with what she had on. And I'm like, you are going all out, fire. Love it. And I ended up asking her how it was. She said it was good and things of that nature. So that was kind of cool. That was kind of fun. And then after that, we play tested a little bit. I was playing Guardy for a game, and then she was playing, I think I gave her Raging Bolt. Or did I give her Raging Bolt? I think I did, because I also had, what else did I have? I had Guardy sleeved up, I had Raging Bolt sleeved up, and I think I had, I'm trying to remember what the actual third deck was, but I knew that I was gonna, it was Dragapult Dusknoir. Yeah, that's what it was. So it was Poltnoir, Bolt, and Guardy that I had. And I didn't want to play Guardy into her Poltnoir, because I just knew that if I played a Lily's Clefairy, the game was basically over at that point. So I didn't really want to do that. So I gave her Raging Bolt. You know, we were just chilling, playing some games. And then after that, we ended up going to the grocery store. And on our way there, we stopped at this gas station. Tell me why I walk in there, right? And I see like a giant ass counter with nothing but like cigarette boxes and like 7 slot machines across the wall. What is it with you guys in PA and gambling? I don't understand what the whole fixation is with actually like throwing away your money, but every gas station I've been into, bar none in that area, had a slot machine. So that was something new. But anyway, we ended up going to the store, grabbing a couple of things, and heading back. But Professor Gnome, shout out to Professor Gnome, he pulled up that night. And We asked him to take a little sidetrack to Walmart to pick up some D batteries. This man walks into the house with 4 boxes of batteries, pours them all out on the table, and he's like, I thought there was 1 in each box. Bro, I was in tears. And yo, if you don't know Professor Gnome, he's one of the funniest guys I've ever met. Like, this dude has no filter, absolutely unhinged, and I love everything. But yeah, so what ended up happening was we had more batteries than we bargained for, so that was kind of funny. And then we all ended up going to bed at around 11, waking up in the morning, and then that's when the drive for registration was. And that was a 3-hour drive just straight there. And I'm already in the headspace of I'm going to have to take a 6-hour drive back. So I just had to do that twice, and it was honestly like kind of cool because like Professor Gnome was up front with Chris, and they were like just chatting, and I was in the back. I was sending Gnome some reels and shit. You know, honestly it flew by a little bit quicker than we thought. We ended up meeting at the B&B, dropping our stuff off, and we met up with Ty. You know, he brought his van. When he said he had a van, I was thinking more like a Sprinter. He had a whole ass like commercial van. Like if he just had livery on the side of it, he would have actually been able to like drive that on like freeways and shit, advertising the company. But either way, we met up with Ty, and then at the event, we met up with a whole bunch of other people. Chef was there too, and we walk up to Chef in the car, and Gnome says the most unhinged shit I've ever heard in my entire life. I'm not repeating it, but he said some funny shit, and after that, pulled up to the venue, we got in line. The line wasn't too terribly long, especially considering it was the first day for like registration and stuff like that. So we get in there, we get our wristbands and stuff like that. The line was fine. I mean, I didn't really have a problem with it. The wristband was actually really nice. It's hanging up on my wall right now, actually. It's like felt, like a cloth-like material. So it doesn't like get destroyed when you like take a shower and stuff like that. And that's low-key. That was the method back then to tell if your opponent actually cared about their well-being, is whether or not their wristband was faded by day 2. But either way, day 1, we met up with everybody. It was actually kind of cool. So outside of that, we were just chilling. And then we went back to the B&B, and then we slept, and we got ready for day 1. Day 1. So day 1 was actually a very interesting day because we ended up leaving a little bit early. And by when I say we, I mean me and Rich. So I don't think I mentioned Rich earlier. I'm so sorry. Rich is one of my guys. I love Rich to death. He's such a cool ass dude. And we ended up leaving a little bit early because he needed to submit his deck list. He forgot to submit his deck list overnight. And I had to leave with him because the Guardy list I submitted used the Paldean... Which one is it? It's Paradox Rift Screamtail rather than the reprint one. And I hate that rule, but I ended up having to go to the vendors early and buying the cards. So I ended up buying a Fluttermane, and I ended up buying a Screamtail. It ended up actually working out in the end. And we got to the venue at around like 7:45. The line wasn't terribly long, but by the time 8 o'clock hit, I was looking at a line that was going around like 2 entire blocks. It was insane. And round 1 was going to start in like 15 minutes. They did not say anything to us inside about anything like that. And I can also get into the fact that like the venue was actually terrible in the sense that like the security was non-existent. I watched like 3 people have their bags get flagged, but they weren't called in to like get a proper search because they had a wristband. Excuse me? Professor Gnome can also chime in on this. He definitely saw it as well. And then like the line was like 3 buildings long by the time 8 o'clock hit for the round 1. So they had to delay round 1 up until 9:15, I think, is when they started playing, and everyone was able to get back in and sit at their seats. So me and my opponent sat down, and we were just chatting, you know, talking about the current meta, talking about how we started in the game, blah, blah, blah. You know, just casual conversation like you tend to do at these events. And I ended up checking my phone because my phone was blowing up. I was like, hold on, who needs me at this very moment? Because we're about to, like, you know, start playing. And then I open up my phone and I see Rich said, yo, can I borrow your night stretchers? So I had to tell my opponent, yo, listen, we're already delayed. let me go meet up with my mans because I got to give him these night stretchers on my deck box. You know, he was cool with it. He was all right with it, you know. Everything was kind of fire. So I met up with Rich. I gave him the night stretchers. And then I ended up sitting back down, and we drew our opening hands. And I think I started off with a Lily's Clefairy. I know that was my top. I know that was my only basic. And I had a TM Evo, Artisan, and a Psychic Energy as well in my hand. So I was feeling really good, especially considering I started second. So all I know is that by the end of my first turn, it's kind of hazy because it was like a week and a half ago, I had a Curlia on my board, and I think I had like 2 or 3 energy in the discard pile. Long story short, that Lily's Clefairy being in my opening hand was actually the end of me. Because for those of you guys who have actually seen my list, you know that I don't play any, like, pick up a Pokemon type card. I don't play Professor Turo, I don't play Penny, I don't play any of that. I am strictly just Royal Guardian. And I feel like that came to bite me in the ass, because later on during the game, it was like a 40-minute game. My opponent ended up taking a 3 prize card turn to seal the first game out. And that was it didn't feel great to know that was what caused my first loss, but it ends up happening. So I'm already going into game 2 thinking to myself, it's a Guardy versus Guardy Mirror. I need to do what I can to be as fast but as thoughtful of a player as I possibly can. So either way, we're going through the game, we're getting the motions up. I get a Guardy out like turn 2. I get everything I need. My opponent actually takes 180 damage from my Lily's Clefairy, and they return KO mine. So in my head, I need to take a 3 prize card turn. Their Lily's Clefairy was Adrenabrained, so they had 40 HP left on the Clefairy. So an Adrenabrain would not actually do it. I would need to get an insane hand. So the board state was I had a Mew-EX on the bench, I had a Gardevoir, and I had a Fluttermane. I had Fluttermane in the active spot at the moment because that shut off the abilities, but my opponent also had a Fluttermane in play. So I'm putting it together in my head. I counter catcher up Fluttermane. I Psychic Embrace onto a Mew. I Monkey Dory Adrenabrain the damage off of the Mew onto the Clefairy. And then I Genome Hacking Hex Hurl for a KO on the Fluttermane itself. And then what Hex Hurl's effect is, 2 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. So by doing the counter catcher Hex Hurl Adrenabrain Psychic Embrace combo, I would have been able to take a 3 prize card turn, outdoing his 2 prize card turn, and we would have had to match at a draw. I was 1 card short. Why was I 1 card short? Because my counter catchers, both of them, were prized. And that felt terrible to look at the end of the game. So we already started off the day 0-1. But you know what? At the end of it all, it's not terrible. My next match was against Marnie's Grimmsnarl, which if you guys know that matchup, it is terrible for me because if they just get a single boss KO and a Gardevoir, I'm almost damn near insta-cooked. And that went about as well as you could expect it to go. I kind of got fried. LDF, actually, was sitting in the top right corner of me. And that man was grilling my board state like no tomorrow. LDF, listen, there's no shot you watch my channel, but on my soul, me and my 180 subs are gonna question you. Because why was you grilling me like that? Like, I'm not playing Hydreigon. Like, if I was playing Hydreigon, I get it. You know what I mean? Because that's like our deck, you feel me? But either way, game 2 ended up with a double loss. Or round 2 ended up with a double loss. And it was just kind of clips from there. Game 3, or round 3. I'm going to use rounds and games interchangeably because I may be stupid. But anyway, round 3, we get paired up. And in game number 1, I realized that after I used TM Evo on a Curlia, both my Gardevoirs were prized. I tell my opponent, listen, by the way, this is another Guardy Mirror. I tell my opponent, yeah, my Guardies are prized. I just got the scoop. So I ended up scooping it up within like 2 minutes and going into game 2. Game 2, I started off with a Screamtail, and they had the nuts. They just had the absolute nuts. I mean, they insta-donked me. So that was my round 3. That didn't feel great. And I'm not gonna lie, it was completely out of my control, which helps me a little bit kind of cope with the fact, because it's like I'm a decent player, I like to think. You know what I mean? Like, I have a brain for this game. I have the ability to make the day 2s, get there, do all that. I just simply, sometimes I don't apply it, sometimes I screw myself over, sometimes I just need to think a little bit. I don't know if I overthink or underthink. It's a whole mental process. So I really got to refine me as a human being before I go to my next regional, but that's fine. That's fine. Those are things that we can sort of figure out as we go along. Round 4. I see my first Dragapult Dusknoir. As you can expect, I absolutely body it. It wasn't even a question. It was like 2 rounds in a row, just straight up fried within like 10 minutes. And then my next game, I ran against another Pultnor. And I did a play. Now, this play was dangerous. Because what I did was I used Flutter Mane to trap a Latias EX in the active spot. I don't know if you guys saw the edited like a little tip thing, but it said like Flutter Mane can trap a Latias. I actually did that multiple times at this regional and won games because of it. But the first time, it ended up forcing my opponent to use Crispin to get it out of the active spot, which meant that he wasn't using his supporter for turn, which meant that his Dragapult was not going to be swinging with Phantom Dive, and he only hit for 70 on Flutter Mane, which simply wasn't enough. And what I ended up doing was I ended up top decking a counter catcher, and I ended up... Now, I actually didn't use it this time. What I did was I ended up using Nest Ball to grab a Lily's Clefairy. I remember this play, actually. I Nest Balled for Lily's Clefairy, I Psychic Embraced onto a Mew. I copied Phantom Dive, and then I put the damage counters onto a Dreepy that I had Adrenabrained onto previously for an insta-KO. And then they ended up return KOing me, and then I ended up using Screamtail to finish off every single Dracloak that they had for the rest of the match. So that game was essentially over. And then going on to round 5... was I talking about round 5 or 4? I'm not entirely too sure. The game after I hit the double Dragapults, I ended up hitting Dango Joltik Box. Now, this is a rough matchup because they like to just boss up all your low HPs and take you out like that. But I ended up actually winning because what I did was I used as many Screamtails as I possibly could. Now, you might say, oh, well, amp you very much, blah, blah, blah. I had like 3 Monkey Dories with Adrenabrain. That Iron Hands was not living. I had the almost perfect setup to make sure that I was destroying an Iron Hands. So that was actually kind of fun. That was great. That was a fun match. And my opponent was kind of like chill about it. He's like, yo, this Screamtail will be swinging hard. And I was like, yeah, yeah. But either way, that was kind of interesting. That was a fun match. And then the next game was, or next round rather, because they ended up scooping to go eat. Next round, I played against another Pult Dusknoir, I think it was. Yeah, I played against 3 Pultnors. And the next one was another one where I used Flutter Mane to trap a Latias EX in the active spot. And they had 2 cards left in deck at that point when I did it. And they had Boss's Orders and an Energy Switch. And there was only 1 energy on board. They drew the Energy Switch and just had the scoop. And he's looking at me, he's like, I never thought about that play before. And I'm thinking to myself, yo, I literally didn't even think about it prior to my first match and I saw Latias. Like, it was honestly a very interesting spur-of-the-moment type play. And I'm proud of myself for thinking about something like that, because I've never seen people do that before. Not at all. And then for my last round of the day, I went up against an Eevee box, and then I ended up trapping... What was it, a Fez? No, it wasn't a Fez. It was something with a double retreat costs I couldn't attack. And they ended up using a Crispin to, retreat the active, and they couldn't swing with Eevee with Magical Charm, so they had to pass, and I ended up genome hacking their magical, or whatever the first attack on Sylveon is. It does 160 and minuses 100 during your next turn. I ended up copying that attack, and they just couldn't find anything bulky enough to hit my Mew with, so they ended up scooping that round. And then the next round, or next game rather, I'm a mess. The next game, they ended up finding a way to just absolutely annihilate every Guardy that I had. So that wasn't good. And then I ended up doing essentially the same exact thing the next game. Flutter Mane was an MVP throughout this entire day. Throughout this entire day, Flutter Mane was the absolute MVP. And I'm sorry if my memory is a little hazy. I gotta get this video out before Milwaukee, so that way I can actually justify myself for uploading it mad late. But that was the end of day 1. And then this is when I realized that my boy Chris, Ginge TCG, made it to day 2. By the way, watch his pit recap video. This man was the Blissey Bodier. Shout out to Chris. Excellent, excellent YouTuber. Great guy. Just fantastic individual. So yeah, that was about it for day 1, and I didn't make day 2. I was short by a good like 4 points, which I did better than I did in Baltimore. So I can also applaud myself on that as well. I did a lot better than I did in Baltimore. I think it was like 3 and 6 at Baltimore, playing Chiempo or / Waterbox. So, you know, turning it around here only makes me feel like my day 2 is right around the corner. But either way, I'll catch you guys in when I talk about day 2 recap, and it's going to be a lot shorter. There wasn't really much to talk about there, really. Yeah, so day 2 wasn't as eventful as day 1. One thing I forgot to mention about day 1 was that we all gathered around the end of Chris's table for his win-in match, and this man has a poker face I've never seen before. I've never seen someone look at me so distraught in my life as if it's all over, and then turn around and look at me with a fist bump. And yeah, we ran right at him. Professor Gnome literally picked him up and spun him around. It was so wholesome. Shout out to you, Chris. You're incredible. You're an incredible player, and I look up to you in a lot of ways as far as Pokemon goes and life goes, and et cetera, et cetera. But either way, we're gonna continue. Day 2, we walk in there. Chris does his own thing. He leaves a little bit earlier than we do. We stayed around, clean up the Airbnb. I left them a little note on the refrigerator, just telling them that like the Draw Pass team thanks you for letting us use the crib. And then when we got to the event, we immediately just ran and started playing singles pods for the rest of the day, trying to farm some of those prize points to try and get ourselves as many things as we possibly could off the prize wall. Gnome was aiming for a booster box. I was aiming for as many packs as I could possibly get. I ended up playing 3 pods in a pre-release event. Pre-release event actually went pretty well. I got a full art Giovanni, which I'm going to give the chef because he won our cook-off. And then we ended up getting the Tyranitar in our pre-release box, and we didn't really do much other than just use the ability to take KOs in between turns. Went 2-1 inside of the pre-release event, and then I think I went 7-2 in all of our pods. We played 3 pods in 1 pre-release, because by the time that happened, Chris was already out of Top Cut, so we all met up around him. We took a picture towards the Blissey sign, because of course we did. And then we ended up all congregating together. I got 27 packs of Twilight Masquerade, and I'm not going to lie, I got some pretty decent stuff. I have an Infernape art rare, I got a Perrin full art, a Tatsugiri SIR, I got a Teal Mask, Ogerpon, I got a Sinistra EX, I got a full art Luxray, full art Ogerpon, Gold Blood Moon, I got a Secret Box, a Screamtail EX, a Dragapult EX, and an SIR Cornerstone Ogerpon, almost all of which are playable, which was great. But you know what I mean? Outside of all that, it was a fantastic experience. I would love to live through all that again. And I'm sorry for the recent absence and lack of content being uploaded on this channel. We're definitely going to start coming back, and coming back strong. I just wanted to make sure that we got the Blissey, or not the Blissey, the video out of the way, so that way you guys could actually, like, you know, see how Pittsburgh was. But aside from the city being a shit show, and the venue not being the greatest as far as like security and safety goes, it was an amazing time, and I wouldn't have traded it for anything else. So anyway, guys, it's been Guardian, and I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day.
I got a lot on my neck.